4 defendants, 1 charge. They built the tools that would connect humanity. And they worked better than anyone expected, better than anyone could control. The prosecution says they knew what they were building, and when it started devouring people, they chose the money. The defense says no one could have predicted this, not even them. You are the jury, and by the end of this, you will decide. Stay until the final ruling, because the last piece of evidence is the one that changes everything, and you won't see it coming. The case before us, for men who set out to connect the world and build something that might be tearing it apart. The question isn't whether the damage is real. The damage is real. The question is, did they create a monster? Or did the monster create itself? Court is now in session. Session 1. The architect. The question before us today is, did Mark Zuckerberg know what he was building? 2004. A 19-year-old Harvard student launches a platform to rate the attractiveness of his female classmates. It gets shut down for violating privacy policies. He rebuilds it, calls it Facebook. Within 2 years, 1 million users. Within 10, 2 billion. The prosecution's position. This was never about connection. The data was always the product. The engagement machine was always the goal. And Zuckerberg, the man who coded it, understood exactly what made it addictive. The defense presents a counterpoint. At 19 years old, no one understands the full impact of what they're building. Every technology gets turned against people eventually. Gutenberg didn't foresee propaganda. Bell didn't anticipate phone scams. Zuckerberg built a connection platform. What people connected about that wasn't in the terms of service. The jury should note, the defense has a point about intentions, but the next session will complicate it considerably. Session 2. The town square. The question before us. When Jack Dorsey built Twitter, did he build a public good or a public hazard? 2006. Twitter launches with a 140 character limit. Dorsey's original vision, a city pulse, a way to know what was happening around you right now. By 2016, it had become the primary distribution channel for disinformation in the United States presidential election. The prosecution argues Twitter was the single most efficient radicalization machine ever built, not because of bots, not because of foreign interference, but because the architecture rewarded outrage, retweets, likes, follower accounts, a system that made anger more viral than nuance every single time. Objection. Twitter also broadcast the Arab Spring. It gave voice to movements that mainstream media ignored for decades. The defense will argue, a town square is not responsible for what people shout in it. The architecture didn't create the outrage. It amplified what was already there. And there it is. The defense just made the prosecution's case. If you know your platform amplifies outrage and you don't fix it, is that negligence? Or is it a business decision? The jury should note, Dorsey eventually acknowledged the problem publicly. He called Twitter a health problem. He left the company twice. Whether that was conscience or defeat, that's for you to decide. Session 3. The Disappearing Act. The question before us. Is Evan Spiegel a visionary or the man who handed a predator's toolkit to an entire generation? 2011. A Stanford student launches an app built around one idea, messages that disappear. The prosecution's position, Snapchat, was marketed as an ephemeral communication tool. What it became was the preferred platform for child exploitation, drug sales, and teenage self-harm content. Not despite the disappearing feature, but because of it. No receipts, no evidence, by design. Wait, the defense presents the other reading. Disappearing messages were designed to protect privacy, specifically to protect teenagers from the permanent internet. The idea was that young people shouldn't be haunted forever by everything they said at 16. Snapchat stories, Snapchat filters, Snapchat culture. It invented the visual language that every other platform then copied. Instagram stories, TikTok, even WhatsApp status. The entire visual vocabulary of social media in the 2000s traces back to Spiegel. The prosecution acknowledges the legacy, but notes, when Snapchat discovered how the disappearing feature was being used, the response was to build more features, not to fix the problem, to grow faster. Where do you stand right now? This is the session that should divide the jury. Because Spiegel built something genuinely new and something genuinely dangerous, and those two things might be the exact same thing. Session 4. The algorithm. The question before us. Did Zhang Yiming build the most powerful attention machine in human history or the most powerful manipulation machine? 2016. ByteDance launches TikTok. Not built around social connections. Not built around who you follow. Built around you. A recommendation algorithm so precise it can predict what you want to watch before you even know you want to watch it. Within 3 years, 1 billion users. The prosecution's argument: TikTok didn't just capture attention, it engineered it. The average session length, the scroll speed, the loop length, everything was calculated. And when studies showed it was accelerating anxiety and eating disorders in teenage girls, ByteDance ran the numbers. The engagement held. They shipped anyway. The defense enters its most powerful argument. Every platform optimizes for engagement. YouTube, Instagram, Netflix. The difference isn't that TikTok is more sinister. It's that TikTok is more honest about what it is. It doesn't pretend to be a town square or a connection platform. It is, explicitly, an entertainment product. And here's the inversion the prosecution didn't want you to see. The most damning piece of evidence against TikTok. The algorithm is also the reason 150 million American creators have a platform they never had before. The same system that surfaces dangerous content also surfaces independent artists, journalists, and educational videos that no legacy media would ever run. The algorithm doesn't discriminate. That's the problem. That's also the point. Zhang Yiming stepped down as CEO in 2021. He said he wasn't suited to the social responsibilities that came with the role. The prosecution calls that an admission. The defense calls it awareness. The jury will note. Both readings are available. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you have heard the evidence. Closing argument for the prosecution. They built the amplifiers. They measured the damage. They had the data. They chose growth. Closing argument for the defense. No one who starts a company at 19, 22, or 26 can be expected to foresee the full arc of what they're building. And fixing the problem would have meant destroying the business. We don't send engineers to prison for discovering that fire burns. Before you render your verdict, consider this. Every tool in history has a monster version and a miracle version. The printing press, the telephone, the nuclear reactor. The question has never been whether the tool can cause harm. The question is always, when you know it's causing harm, what do you do next? These 4 men knew. At different times, in different ways they knew. What they did with that knowledge is the case before you. Here's the paragraph in English, written for narration, natural, conversational, spoken tone. Share your opinion in the comments. If you were in their position, would you have kept building all of that engineering, or would you have tried to fix it? In my view, if they were ordinary people like you and me, we probably wouldn't have known the real consequences of what we were creating. But here's what we do know. The scroll motion on these platforms was not an accident. It was studied and deliberately designed by professionals, modeled after the slot machines in Las Vegas casinos. That infinite scroll that keeps your thumb moving, that was engineered to do exactly what it does to you. So do you think we're living in a cruel world? Because I do feel it. Emotional suffering is more visible than ever. Anxiety, loneliness, disconnection, it's everywhere. And sometimes I wonder if we're heading toward a point where we'll have no choice but to go back to letters, back to slow communication. Communication that actually happened in its own time. People lived more in the present. They were less rushed, less distracted, more there. Maybe the real connection was always the slow one. Guilty. That's for you to decide. Next case. Sam Bankman-Fried charged with building the most trusted name in crypto, then using that trust to steal $11 billion from the people who believed him most. The trial starts this week. Subscribe so you don't miss the opening statement. Court is adjourned. See you in the next one.